9 o'clock, and I'm scanning through. It looks like I'm seeing everybody's name here. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I just want to officially welcome Les to the committee. It's great to have you here, and we'll be getting to know you better as we continue on. Would like to start with approval of the minutes. Do we have any changes or amendments?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Those are passed. Do we have any members of the public, or have we received any requests for public comment?
We have not.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the monthly state of the parks.
The monthly state of the parks. We've taken the windscreens down for the winter at the tennis courts. We've started our seasonal tree pruning around the parks and right of ways. There's be a lot more to do all winter. The Colic Creek Forest Reserve has reopened after being closed due to fire danger. We continue to struggle to keep the playground closed, but it's okay. The Costa Theater put on a Reader's Theater, Don't Fear Shakespeare, for 5 or 6 performances. So now that the season's over, I must say the bandstand had a more use than we would have expected during coronavirus. The bird viewing platform has been repaired. It was the stairs, the brackets for the stairs were all failing, so we replaced all those and some of the decking on top. So the bird viewing platform should be in good shape for another decade. We also began a knotweed eradication program that we're going to continue annually for a while, and that's a good thing. And we're going to, I received 2 new tennis nets yesterday. We're going to replace the tennis nets as we get further on in the winter. We'll see if these old ones can hold up through the winter, and then we'll have new ones next spring. And that's about it. I'll answer any questions or elaborate.
Hey, Kirk, on the tennis courts, the posts, how are they doing?
We're going to replace the posts at the same
In the
time.
spring.
I have new posts too.
Okay.
But until I hate to replace stuff until it breaks.
Yeah,
When it does break, it'll just be a day.
let's hold the net until the spring. And when you do the net in the spring, go ahead and do the post.
That's our plan.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comment? Okay, great. Thanks, Kirk.
Yep.
All right, community grant update. And I believe Barb was going to attend the council meeting where those were submitted. Any updates there, Barb?
Bruce presented our proposals at the city council meeting. I answered a couple questions from city council members. One was if it was clear to us that the demands for the grant money have increased, and I said, yes, I think needs continue to increase. And then another council member asked if we were going to have an awards presentation this year. And I explained that we probably were not going to because of COVID, but next year we would have a spectacular event to announce. And so they will hopefully vote for them at the November 3rd meeting, and then hopefully we can get the checks out as soon as possible, since we're so in the process.
Good.
Bruce has a question.
Yeah, I just want to add something, Barb. In the discussion, actually we had another discussion at that meeting, and it was about helping businesses and helping, which extended over to helping nonprofits. And so there was discussion about putting out another, I don't know, a fund or sum of money to help nonprofits. It's not for certain yet, but it's something that will be discussed on the 20th of October. And the suggestion was that the Parks and Community Services will be the ones that handle that process because you have so much experience in it. So it may be forthcoming. It would be funded. We had a much better first quarter than what we'd anticipated or what we put in at what we budgeted for. And the budget is balanced at the lower numbers. And so we may repurpose. I just like it where it sounds like porpoise, but repurpose some of those funds to try to help the nonprofits. So you may be called on to help us with that.
Great.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And thanks, Barb, for attending and updating us on that.
Sure.
Okay, right of way, anything else on grants before we move on? Okay, we have a number of notifications of tree removal applications made up the bulk of the packet this time. It looked like a number of those, or the majority, were for hazard or dead trees. There was, but not entirely. So I want to see if there are any questions or considerations for staff regarding those. Is there anything staff would like us to be aware of regarding any of those?
Negative.
Okay. Great. So we are at a Cola Creek Forest Reserve update. And for the, we've got a few things to check in about on this today, but primarily what I'd like to focus on are the remaining tasks, the timeline, and setting some dates for both our aiming date for submitting all our materials to council, and then working back and getting some fixed dates for the remaining tasks, which we are getting pretty close on. I do want to thank the staff, Kelsey and Rusty in particular, for working on getting a link that was accessible for everybody for the presentation. And I know that came a little bit late, later than hoped, but there were some unavoidable technical issues involved with that. So having said that, did everyone have a chance to listen to that? Or maybe you can just let me know who has and who has not listened to that. It was in your email yesterday, late in the day.
This is Bob. I was quite impressed. I thank you for doing that. That was a heck of a job.
This is Barb. I also watched it. It was very inspiring. Thank you so much for all your work. And if it hadn't been dark outside, I think I would have taken a little hike in the reserve watching it.
Thanks.
This is Les, and I did get a chance to watch it, and I was also very impressed. Who did the narration on that?
That was me, Jelaine.
Oh, great job.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Stacy, and I also watched and listened, and Jelaine, you did a beautiful job. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And this is Luann. Jelaine, you rock. I mean, it was awesome. You did just a wonderful job, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all of our, many months of work and compiling all of this, and, all of the discussions that have gone into it. And then more recently, thanks for the feedback I got, and assistance with photos and all of that was just a great help. And I did, related to photos, I did want to just ask everybody, Stacy, thank you. I know you provided a lot of the photos, and also our previous committee member, Scott Recate, provided a large number of photos for this. I wanted to just give him a preview of it before we post it. Is everybody okay if I send him this non-public link so he can?
Please do.
Yes.
Okay, great. Anybody know on that? Okay, great. I'll send that to him today. So can we go ahead and approve the version that we have for posting to the website for the public?
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, please.
Since Les, this is Stacy, since Les has joined our committee, can we add his name to the presentation as well at the very end?
Yes, absolutely. I will add that to the final slide and then
Thank you.
send that to the, send that back. And Kelsey, is that going to be, should I do that the same way? Just upload it to you and then Rusty can put the final up on the site?
Yes, that would be just fine.
Okay, great. I'll get that to you later today.
Jelaine, this is Les.
Yes.
When prior to the Ecola Creek Forest Reserve discussion, you'd asked for this, comments on the right-of-way clearings from the city, and I didn't. So there was one that was not a right-of-way clearing. There was a lot under construction.
Yes.
Or proposed. Were you intending to talk about that? Because I had a question on it. Is this the right time to ask it, or?
Sure. Why don't we revisit that? And so the right of way, the tree removal applications are provided to the Parks Committee. We don't have decision-making capability with that, but we certainly can ask questions, provide feedback and input on that. So yes, if you have a question about that lot clearance, this would be a good time to bring that to staff. So.
Well, so this is purely for my education, and I appreciate your indulgence. It struck me a little odd that the request was to cut every tree on the lot. And again, I didn't know what role the Parks Committee played in all of this. And so I was a little concerned at that. I mean, I know generally we try to preserve as many trees as possible. Is this very common, kind of request, or is this something that's kind of new? I've heard conversation that some of the lots that were previously thought to be unbuildable have, started to be purchased and are being built on. I'm just trying to learn how to think about this.
Yeah, thank you, Les. And that is exactly the kind of question and concern that this committee, I think, can bring to staff. We're bringing that lens to any changes or anything that may be of a question or concern regarding removing trees. So thank you for that. And I'll just ask staff if you have any input on that.
So are you talking about the lot down in Tolovana? Is that what we're talking about? The empty lot the house is gonna be built on?
At the south end of Hemlock.
Okay, so any of the trees that are on the actual property lot is a Jeff Adams issue, that he determines that's his issue of what goes and what stays. The trees out in the right of way, that's where the driveway entrance is gonna be. And looks like there's gonna be 2 trees removed in order to get the driveway in there. So that's how that goes.
Most of those things are, this is Karen, most of those things, Les, are determined based on setback requirements for the footprint of a house. And that dictates how the house is sitting on the lot. And then when you add what the allowance is for a private driveway, that would dictate anything out in the right of way that would have to come out based on being in compliance with what is allowed for a driveway. Anything outside of that, we do everything we can to preserve a tree which includes requiring them to fence off to protect the root ball of a tree that may be near a spot where they're having to excavate for a driveway or for the house. So,
And those proposed trees in the right of way that are going to be removed are actually growing in the power lines. So they're already an issue.
yeah. So we do everything we can to try to mitigate the removal of any trees that are not absolutely necessary for the construction of a home or a driveway.
Thank you, Karen. And I appreciate that very much. Let me ask one last question and then I'll get off the phone. Is there ever a requirement to have the homeowner plant more trees in appropriate spaces?
Of
I know in
course,
other communities
yeah.
they do that.
Of course, and that's a Jeff Adams, he dictates how
It's-
many trees have to be replanted on the lot after construction.
It's typically a 2-for-1. You have to replant 2 trees for every one you remove. But again, that's going to be dictated by what actual space is remaining on the private property once the construction is complete. If it's on a corner, obviously they're going to have a lot more room because the setbacks are more significant on a corner than if you're in a middle lot. But there's a balance between the 2-for-1 ratio and what the actual private homeowner owns that they could plant more trees on. But yes, that there is a requirement that comes along with every new construction and or remodel that is disruptive to trees that are on anybody's private property. What we can't do is dictate what the private homeowner does regarding their home design to be able to preserve trees.
Thank you. I appreciate the work the city's doing.
Yep.
Thanks, Les. And, this may be a topic that we want to revisit just in terms of considering, again, this isn't within the decision-making purview of parks, but I think there is a more general concern that is appropriate to the committee just regarding tree removal more generally and how that's being approached. So this may be something we want to return to just as a more general discussion and information session, particularly as pertains to any changes that may be either happening or considered. So thanks again, Les, for that. Anything else before we return to ECFR? Great. So going back to consideration, it sounds like we're good with the presentation as submitted, the final draft. Is that something we need to vote on? I'm not sure. Or can we just agree? If we're all in agreement, we can post that.
As far as moving forward,
Yeah.
I think that because you've had rather an extended process, and so I think that you should vote and say that you're ready to move it on.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you can't change it later, but as far as saying that you're done and it's time to go to council or time to go to the public.
Okay. So this would just be consideration of sending the presentation, which you reviewed yesterday, onto the public site. So this is not yet taking it to council, but this is the next step, which is putting it on the city site for public access with the amendment of adding Les's name to the final slide. So do I have a motion regarding that or any questions?
This is Barb, and I so move.
I second. Ms. Bob?
Great. Is there any discussion? All right, those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? All right, thank you. And thanks for your feedback on that. So the remaining items that we have will be posting the presentation on the city website, receiving and compiling the public comment on the presentation. I'm just going to list what we have left to do and then go back and we can talk about timeline and dates on this. Posting the presentation, compiling the public feedback. We need to finalize a draft of our addendum that is the written form of our recommendations to council regarding any of the action items or proposed projects. So that will be one addendum to the Barry's update, plan update. And we will, yeah, and I think that's it. And then we'll just need to compile everything and submit it to the council. So if we're working backwards, I think it would be reasonable, and I'd like to hear from other folks, but I think given the timing of this, we could get this to the council work session on December 8th. And I think what we would all be looking toward finalizing this as soon as possible. And to do that, we would need to, the public feedback will be ongoing from the time that we post it through the end of the comment period. Oh, and I wanted to ask, on the presentation, I suggested the end of the comment period for November 27th. I think if we post that within the next week, we'll give the public a month or a little bit more to both view and comment. Is that date agreeable with everybody?
Yes.
It is with me.
Yes.
Okay. So given that, we'll be receiving comment, and as I understand it, the dedicated email, which is in the presentation, that's going to go to you, Karen, initially, and then you will pass that on. Is that correct?
Right. And if you guys want to be on the council agenda for December 8th, that means my staff report and everything that you're presenting to the council has to be to Jennifer by December 1st. So you'd want to go backwards on how much time you're going to allow for public input, how much time it's going to take you guys to compile it and get it in a presentable format to be able to meet that time frame.
Great. I think we will be able to do that, but that's, I think what we'll do right now is kind of go through each of these steps and confer about whether we think we can do that reasonably. So to submit for December 8th, we'll need to have all of our materials to Jan by December 1st. So keeping
And
that
you've got the Thanksgiving holiday in there as well, so.
Great, thanks. I think that, as I say, the public feedback will be coming in via email, and I will be compiling that. A question about format in terms of the addendum, would the appropriate way to submit that be just literally an inclusion of all of the public comment email when we're submitting to council? Is there anything we need to do beyond compiling the comment from the public in terms of submitting it to council?
That's a good question. Bruce, how's it normally handled? I mean, you don't modify the public's input in any way, so you just want to compile all that?
Yes.
Okay, so Bruce says, yeah, you just present it as it was presented to you. So if you get, 50 responses, you give me 50 as they came in, how they were written. And if you get 5 or you get 500, that's what we present. That
Okay.
becomes part of your packet.
Okay, great. So let me come back to that. Yeah.
So if I can just jump in, what the expectation is that you take the public comment and determine among yourselves if you think that there's anything or anything's been brought up that you think should be changed in the report before you pass it on.
Good idea.
But still include
Okay, so I think that may push us back a little bit, just given the time frame of this, unless we want to shorten. Well, actually, at this point, I think end of November is probably, again, with holidays, et cetera, that's probably the most reasonable time frame in terms of allowing enough time for folks to see it and comment. So
Wouldn't they have to have another meeting in order to make a decision if they're
Yes.
going to take any modifications based on that public input?
yes, exactly. So I think that's what we're looking at. So thanks for that clarification. So I think then we'll be compiling it. That will end on November 27th. So our December meeting, we will be considering anything that comes up from that public feedback that may affect the final report. So I'm going to ask if this is feasible as the public comment comes in after November 27th. What is a mechanism that the members of the committee can access that so that they can be reading through it, raising questions, noting anything that they may want to bring up at our December meetings, so we can streamline this as much as possible for our limited meeting time?
There's two ways it can happen. One is we can send things to you as we receive them, or on the last day, we send you an email with all of the attachments.
Okay, can I hear from the members on thoughts about how you'd prefer to do that?
Bruce, do you have any intuition about what volume of materials we're going to have? Having experience with getting a dump of 50 or 60 or 70 pages on the day of a meeting or the day before a meeting, that's not fun or productive. On the other hand, if it's likely that we're just going to get a few, may as well take them all at once.
I believe that you folks have done a good job with this project. We have not had controversy with it. So I don't think that you'll get a lot of feedback that would indicate that you need to make any changes to your direction. And I would think that the volume would be relatively light.
Is there any reason folks can think of not to receive it as it comes in? I just think in terms of reading load that might, if there is a bunch all at once or a higher volume, is there any downside to that anyone can see?
The only downside I could see, and this is Karen, is that we don't know that everybody got everything. If it comes to you as one attachment and it's sent out one time to everybody at the same time, you know everybody received it. If it is sent out as it is received, even though it's being sent, I don't know that everybody's received every single one of them.
Yeah, and Karen, that's a good point, but I think what we can do is both.
It's whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
The only thing I could do at the end is say, because these emails are coming to me, I could say I have a total of 20 emails. Can everybody verify they got 20 emails? If somebody says, no, I only got 15, how do I know out of the 20 what they got and what they didn't get? You see what I'm talking about?
Good point. But at the end, you send them all 20. You go ahead and you send them individually. But at the end, you have it compiled and you send it out to everybody.
And it's up to them to cipher through and see what they already saw and what they didn't see. Okay.
Yeah, because they should have.
Do it both ways.
But I think it's good for us to have a package of however many came in, because we should also have that on the website.
Okay.
Any other comment or thoughts about this from members, preferences about receiving this?
Well, this is Les, and I would like the ability to work on them as they come in. So I'm leaning that way. Do committees use public cloud repositories for things like this, like a Dropbox where they could just be put and then we could each go and get them as we want to, or does it have to be individually emailed?
I think at the time they're coming in individually, we would send them to you to your email. At the end, when we have all of them compiled, they would be on the website.
I see. Okay.
Great. Thanks for the clarification on that. So as I'm understanding, our plan going forward is we will, and our next question is how soon we can post this. But once it's up, we'll start receiving public feedback via that email. And we'll be getting individual emails as they come in. And then on November 27th, when that period is closed, we'll get a compiled packet from the city. And we will all each be responsible for going through and making sure that we've seen each one of those. And then with that would be bringing any thoughts, questions, or considerations to our December meeting so we can move through that expeditiously in terms of anything that we might need to consider before submitting. I think this is going to move the submission date to council then back to January. What is it, the second Tuesday in January?
I don't have my January calendar for the council meetings, but yeah, I'll verify that and get back with the team.
Second Tuesday is a workshop.
Yeah, and it would need to go to work session first, correct?
It has to go to a workshop first.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I have a question about this process, and that is, we're going to make this available on this, pardon me, on the city's website. Do we want to publicize this and actively solicit public input, or are we just making it available? And I'm not pushing what the answer to that question ought to be, but I think that it's something that we ought to have a conscious intention about one way or the other.
I would think that what you put on the website, we also put on Facebook. So are you talking above and beyond those two sites? Put something in the paper soliciting folks to input?
I guess I'm asking whether we want to do that, and I'm not pushing, as I said, I'm not, I don't have an opinion as to whether we want to actively wave our arms and say, tell us what you think, or just make it available. I think, go ahead, Bruce. I'm sorry.
No, that's an excellent question. And I think with all the work that you put in it, and it is a public asset, and it's something that's important to the community, I think that you should reach out. I think.
Check with Jen and see what the deadline is for the publication. She puts a bulletin in the paper every month. We can add it to that.
And also,
I need to see what the cutoff is of that.
yeah, but if we contact the press, they'll want to do a story on it, so we can,
Yeah.
control that timing too. But I think that's a good suggestion. You want to be known as being very active in trying to get the public involved in this process. And it's a good process. You've done a good job.
Yeah, my sense is that if we have it on a bulletin, Facebook, and on the city website, and visible on the city website, I think that that's really fulfilling our requirement in terms of letting the public know about it, especially if we can get it into the bulletin. People can access it. They've got plenty of time to consider it and access it. So that would be my leaning to do those three things.
I would suggest that we also contact the press and try to get them to do a story. And especially when you are able to tell them you got a really cool video. So.
Can I hear from the members? Thanks, Bruce. Can I hear from members on that, just where we are on that?
I'd like that approach. I think we have a responsibility to communicate as much as possible about the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Les, and I'll try to be the troublemaker here. One of the conversations that I remember going on with the reserve was not wanting to necessarily publicize it as a tourist attraction. This is a great presentation. I mean, it's going to make anybody want to go out there. Mm-hmm. Plus, do you want feedback from people who are not part of the community? I think you'll get some.
Yeah. Other thoughts about this?
This is Luann. I think Les has a good point that perhaps, I think it should be mentioned in the bulletin, perhaps though not as an article, and then Facebook and the city, and that gives people who watch those things ample opportunity to give feedback.
So this is Karen. Jennifer just responded and she said for this month to make it into the bulletin, we'd have to have something to her by the 23rd. So that's easy for us to meet that timeline.
Great, thank you.
So we'll make sure we do that and then on the website and then whatever you guys want me to put on Facebook as far as the wording.
Okay, yeah, and I would agree, just to reiterate, I think this has not been a process. I think we want the public to be able to see it, but I think all of these points are really relevant to the approach in the reserve. And this is also not an original compilation. We're not creating this plan. The original process involved a lot of input about how we would approach the stewardship plan. And I think that's been established. And so now we're providing an update and information, and we definitely want folks to be able to access that. So I would agree with that. Are there any other thoughts related to how we want to publicize?
I guess I'm with Les. I've been pulled in the direction of whoever spoke most recently, but in the end, I think I'll go with Les's view that we're opening things up to encouraging people to come in and enjoy the reserve. And I think that at the moment, we want to push back against that.
Okay, great, thanks. And I think that is really one of the key messages in the presentation and the work that we've done together is recognizing how it's different from recreational areas and that it is really not to be approached that way. So appreciate that. So we will submit a notice in the bulletin and a notice on Facebook, and we can, I can get together with you, Karen, just in terms of wording on that. And we'll then post it on the city website where it's clearly visible and folks can access it there. Is that all agreed?
Yes.
And then FYI for November, it's the 20th is the cutoff, and I'll plan to do a reminder for folks to give their input. The deadline is, well, we'd be past it because you said the 19th. Or no, you said the
27th.
7th. So that's Thanksgiving Day. I want to say the 30th.
After
That's a real viable working day.
It's yeah, I just looked at the Friday at the end of November. I was looking for end of week date.
Okay.
I don't think it's critical which one. So people in the presentation, people have two options. They can email comments through November 27th. That's what it says in it. And if that can stand, it will eliminate having to go back and edit the sound in the presentation. So if we can just go with Friday, the 27th of November as the last date to submit comments.
Okay.
And the other option folks have would be to attend our November 19th meeting via Zoom, and then they can provide comments in person. And that's also on that slide. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we can post this, I think, at any point. Do we want to get it up as soon as Rusty can get it on the site after I make that change to the final slide? Or do we want to have it be like October 27th to November 27th? Or what do we think about that?
Put it up.
Up there.
As soon as possible. Agreed.
Okay, so without objection, I will make the change to that slide and get it to Kelsey. And then as soon as Rusty can put it up, he'll put it up. And then Kelsey, can you just let us know when it's up there?
Of course, not a problem.
Great, thank you. oops, I just muted myself, sorry. Between now and our November meeting, the task, I think, will be to do a draft, a final draft of our recommendations to council. So we have that in written form. And I'd be happy to provide that, just compiling everything that we have recommended in written form. And I can get that to you prior to our November meeting. So you'll have a chance to look at that. And then again, we'll, if possible, if we can approve that or certainly make any change, well, actually we have a little more time now. So we can look at that at the November meeting, identify any changes that we need to do, and then finalize that at the December meeting. Is that agreeable to everybody, or any comments on that?
That's good.
So just so I understand, you guys are shooting for the January council meeting to get this in front of council, right? Not December?
Yes, the January work session, which
Okay,
gives us
very
a little bit more space here. And those are really, I think the two addenda that we'll have to the final, to Barry's report, will be our written recommendations, which would be addressing the status of the action items. He does that in the report, but we could do a summary of that. Our recommendations about any of those previously identified items, and then a description of our proposed projects that we would want to consider for the next 5 years. And the other addendum to the report would be the public comment. Is there anything else anyone's aware of that we would need to include beyond those two things and the updated report? Okay. So I will move forward with that and get a draft to you guys to consider before a November meeting. And I think, let's see, we've got public comment process identified. As you're probably aware, there are two approval processes here. It goes to council and it also goes to OWEB, and we can talk more about how that goes. But I think our first stop is with City Council. And then if we need to do any presentation or anything beyond submitting the public presentation and the materials, can you let us know so we can talk about that at our next meeting in November? If anything else would be needed in terms of submitting it to council, or anything would be a good idea. And please, members, now I'll just open it up again. If there are thoughts about how we want to approach that, please let us know.
I have almost no experience dealing directly with OWEB, so I don't have an expectation about what we're going to get, what we're going to hear from them. Anybody have a basis for projecting whether they're going to rubber stamp this and say thank you for the report, or say why aren't you doing this and that? Or
well, I think in terms of our work, it goes to City Council, and then I believe it is then that is an additional step, but not directly the parks, what the parks would do. But if people know otherwise, or if we need to get some more information about that, please let me know. Is that correct?
that sounds right.
OWEB provided at least part of the original funding for the acquisition. Is that right?
Yes. And there are conservation agreements and agreements that we have with OWEB, or that the city has with OWEB regarding that. So they are part of this process. And I think I think that is something that the city considers with OWEB after the committee presents our work to the council. But if staff knows, has other information about that, please let us know. That's what the way my understanding.
That's correct, Jelaine.
kept
I'm gonna be your timekeeper this morning. You got about 16 minutes before we have a hard stop this morning.
Thank you. I think we're just about done. So does anybody have anything else related to ECFR presentation or this process that we need to, that I've left out or that we need to consider? Okay, just want to thank everybody again for all that's gone into this. I'll get a copy so Scott can just take a look at it. We'll get that posted as soon as possible and move forward. So do we have anything for good of the order?
I do. This is Karen. I was approached by one of the hotel owners down in the area of the Waves and Webb's Hotel, that little side street down there at the end, the dead end, about a pocket park concept where there is a set of stairs already there and the seawall. The city has a tiny, tiny little triangle of property that we own there that they have asked me if putting a bench would be something that we would consider. I went down and looked at it. I measured one of our standard 5x9 concrete pads that we put our bench on so that a person in a wheelchair could navigate from their chair onto the bench, would fit in that area. However, what I gave the feedback to the hotel owners is that in that area, well, let me back up. They also asked if the city would be open to a wheelchair accessible beach ramp in that location. I told them that they would have to propose this to the Parks Committee as an idea for a formal project, because putting a wheelchair ramp would be extremely expensive. And my concern is our Talavana ramp and our Gower ramp is very burdensome on our budget as it is right now. And until we get some sort of a redesign of Talavana, I was hesitant to advocate another wheelchair ramp that is going to add further burden to the budget to maintain every year. Secondly, that seawall is failing in that area. So I think the timing of a bench would be prudent to do it when Webb's Hotel and the others in that area make a decision to replace that wall. Because if we do it now, when they take the wall apart to replace it, the concrete pad would be busted up and removed to allow for that. So it didn't make sense to spend that money now to turn around and spend it again later. They agreed with that timing. So I'm bringing this up to you guys for your awareness only right now. They have not decided if they're going to bring it forward for consideration of a viable project. They understand what that would mean as far as cost. It was proposed in the discussion that maybe tourism dollars could be used for that, since it would be specific to the tourism as far as the bench, pocket park, and the wheelchair access. I also asked them to consider what they'd be doing to themselves regarding parking and the crowded nature of that dead end as it stands today, because naturally, as a wheelchair access and a beach access, it would be put on Google and other things that send people to that location. We already have kind of a compromised situation down there where there's been multiple things hit with vehicles that were trying to navigate and turn around at that dead end. So I didn't shut the idea down. I just asked them to consider, watch out what you ask for, because we could be making a compromised situation even more complicated by considering a project of this nature. So that's where I left it, and I'm presenting it to you guys for awareness.
It seems to me that I I don't pay much attention to wheelchairs, but just visualizing, it seems to me that if I had a big wheel, a fat tired wheelchair, and I wanted to get onto the beach from near there, you can go down to the end of Spruce and there is at least a couple of paths at the end there by the gate into Nacoos Park where you could stop long enough to unload somebody and get down there. Have they looked at that? That's very close to the end of Second.
I'm not sure.
Just a couple
I didn't have
blocks.
that discussion with them.
The Whale Park ramp is theoretically a wheelchair accessible. At Whale Park, you think about it, onto the soft sand.
Mhm.
It's a gradual
So they
ramp.
could navigate.
Oh, I was thinking of that as stairs. Okay.
There's no stairs at Whale Park.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So both
okay.
the-
I'm going back and forth between Whale Park. and
Both the
Yeah.
end of Spruce and Whale Park, I think
Yes,
provide
that's true.
fat tied
Yes,
wheelchair
Yes,
access.
yeah, that's even closer. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other discussion on this? Okay, so we'll keep this in mind. It will not be new news if it comes to us again, and there may be several different versions that end up getting proposed, if any, but it sounds like that's not immediate. So anything else for good of the order?
Yes, this is Barb. Tree City USA application is due December 15th. It will be an interesting process because we were unable to do a lot of the things that we traditionally have done to maintain our Tree City. But I'll keep you guys informed as to the progress of the application.
Thanks, Barb. And if there's anything that, we can assist with on that, please let us know.
Thank you.
Anything else for good of the order today? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for helping to move through all of this. We've got our next steps and a timeline to finish up the ECFR update. So thanks again to everybody. And we'll see you in November. We are adjourned. Thanks.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Usually ends the meeting.